This isn't your average philosophy class. This is the deep dive version. Okay, let's unpack this. You might think of him, as the charming card slinger, the mutant master thief, that character, right? Known for his roguish charm, that kinetic energy.
Definitely the popular image.
But today, we're taking a deep dive into Gambit. And not just as, a thrilling comic book character, we're looking at him as this surprisingly rich case study in, human emotional development. We're really trying to get beyond the powers and the cool trench coat, exploring the profound layers of his story.
Yeah.
This isn't just about what happened on the page. It's more about why it mattered and maybe what it means for us, in the real world.
Absolutely.
We've put together a really unique blend of sources for this deep dive. We've got the gritty, detailed comic book history of Gambit.
Right, the raw timeline.
Woven together with a pretty nuanced psychological analysis of his character.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how a character's journey, even one that's, meticulously crafted in fiction, can actually illuminate these universal patterns of growth, self-sabotage, and that often really arduous path towards redemption.
Yeah, it's surprisingly relatable.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to extract those potent nuggets of knowledge. We're connecting the dots between Gambit's most iconic moments and these profound human lessons that really resonate far beyond the vivid panels of a comic book.
So what are we working with specifically?
Our source material includes a series of what are called top 10 scrolls. They intricately analyze Gambit's emotional core, tracing the beneficial and destructive behavioral loops he repeatedly fell into.
Loops, okay, like patterns.
Yes, recurring patterns. And they even propose real-world applications and, surprisingly, some applicable AI lessons, too.
AI, okay, that's unexpected. We'll definitely get to that.
And complementing that, we have what's titled Gambit History Raw. That gives us the precise chronological narrative, the specific comic book appearances that form the bedrock of his long and, frankly, pretty complex story.
Okay, sounds comprehensive. So let's start right at the beginning then. Gambit's initial comic book appearances back in 1990.
Right.
He first popped up almost, unceremoniously, you could say, in Uncanny X-Men Annual #14. That was July. Then right after Uncanny X-Men #266 in August of that same year.
Quick succession.
And what's interesting, almost a bit jarring really, is that when the creator, Chris Claremont, introduced him, there wasn't this big, immediate, fleshed out origin story reveal.
No fanfare.
He was just there, this
Yeah.
new face full of swagger, suddenly just part of the X-Men's world.
It was quite a departure, wasn't it?
Yeah.
From how major characters often make their debut, Claremont's intention was, quite pragmatically, just to add fresh characters to the roster.
Right, they needed new blood.
Yeah, and this was a period of massive upheaval for the X-Men. I mean, think about it. The original X-Men members, they were being systematically phased out. Professor Xavier was off the team entirely for a while.
Even Magneto was leading.
Magneto was taking over as leader for a time. It was, as the historical data from our sources puts it, a wholesale relaunch that had actually been years in the making.
Okay, so Gambit just walked into that chaos.
Pretty much. So his introduction wasn't some grand pre-planned reveal. It was almost happenstance. He simply appeared as part of an existing storyline, one centered around Storm, almost like a wild card thrown into the mix.
Right, I remember that. Storm had been held captive by Manny and the Orphan Maker.
That's it.
And deeply entangled with the shadowy influence of the Shadow King.
A really complex situation for her.
And Gambit, on one of his typical missions, to acquire something valuable, he literally just stumbled upon her plight and ended up helping her escape.
A classic Gambit entrance, in a way. Right place, right time, questionable motives initially.
Exactly. And because of that crucial intervention, when Professor Xavier eventually returned to the X-Men and reclaimed leadership, Storm vouched for him.
Her word carried weight.
And just like that, this charming stranger with the glowing red eyes, he was part of the X-Men.
Just integrated.
It really is unusual for a character who had become so popular, so central, to just arrive without that immediate deep backstory. How did that initial mystery around him actually serve his later development, especially when we finally uncovered his true beginnings?
That's a great question. That initial mystery, in a way, it amplified the impact when his backstory is finally revealed.
Yeah.
It allowed his true origin to, hit harder.
Yeah.
Because we'd already invested in him as this charming, mysterious figure.
Right, we knew the persona first.
Exactly. So his early core wound, as our psychological analysis identifies it, was profoundly tragic. Abandonment as an infant.
Wow.
This was revealed primarily in Gambit Vol 3, issue #1. That's where we learn he was left by his birth parents, specifically because of his glowing red eyes, that visual sign of his mutant nature.
Just for being different.
Right, from birth. And this wasn't just, a bad childhood incident. It imprinted on him this deep-seated, almost primal belief. I am too different to be loved.
Oh, man.
Imagine that being your first experience of the world. Your fundamental sense of self is one of rejection, based on who you inherently are. It's a foundational wound. And it deeply shapes pretty much all subsequent behaviors and relationships.
And then, this abandoned infant, he gets rescued, but by the Thieves Guild in New Orleans. Which sounds like a lifeline, maybe a benevolent act, but it quickly comes with its own set of complicated strings attached, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The Guild, as our historical sources explain, is this vast worldwide organization. It operates with intricate cells, strict rules, ancient traditions.
Not just some back alley operation.
Not at all. In New Orleans, they paid tithe to Kendra. She was a type of immortal mutant who possessed the elixir of life, sometimes called the infinity formula.
The same stuff Nick Fury used.
The very same substance, that granted longevity to figures like Fury. So for the young Remy LeBeau, the Thieves Guild offered, on the surface, survival, skill, and belonging.
Which sounds good initially.
It does, a family substitute, almost. But, and this is the crucial part, it was a belonging built entirely on conditional loyalty and transactional ties.
Okay, there is the catch.
His emotional foundation shifted. He went from believing in any kind of innate worth to understanding that his safety came through usefulness, not unconditional acceptance. He was valued for what he did, for his burgeoning skills as a thief, not for simply being Remy.
That's a really powerful distinction, being valued for utility versus just existing, your inherent self. And it immediately brings to mind some of those beneficial coping mechanisms our sources detail, specifically what they call the found family integration and charm as social bridge loops. How did those early patterns show up for him? What was their initial impact?
Okay, so the found family integration loop, that meant he instinctively sought out and eventually found a group, in this case the Thieves Guild. And despite its transactional nature, it offered him a sense of belonging. He learned he could prove his worth through skill, through loyalty, by adhering to their codes.
Playing by their rules.
Right. And in doing that, he gained a deeper connection than, say, complete isolation would ever allow. This loop was crucial. It kept him from just spiraling into utter solitude. It helped build a foundational layer of resilience. It was his first taste of collective identity, however flawed it might have been.
And the charm. The charm is social bridge.
That was his other vital tool. I mean, think about it. A child already feeling inherently too different, rejected. He quickly learns to use his wit, his charisma, his playfulness. Why? To disarm hostility, to navigate suspicious environments, maybe even turn potential adversaries into unwitting allies.
A survival tactic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It wasn't just superficial charm. It was a brilliant, almost unconscious strategy for survival and integration into this dangerous world where trust was, well, a commodity. It allowed him to connect just enough to survive, to move through situations that would otherwise be hostile.
So these early patterns, while totally essential for his survival, for building some initial connections, they also laid the groundwork for future issues, didn't they? It feels like that charm, which started as a way to connect, eventually became more like a shield, hiding insecurity rather than just bridging gaps.
Precisely. You've nailed it. To be valued consistently for what you do rather than who you are, it inevitably creates this dynamic of constant performance.
You're always on.
Always proving your worth, always try to be useful, because that's the only way you've learned to secure your place. As our analysis from the top 10 scrolls underscores, your first family or formative group, it might accept you primarily for your utility, right? Rather than your whole self. And while that can provide vital skills, protection, it's crucial for you, the listener, to recognize its limits. The lesson here is pretty profound. Take the skills, the resilience, the discipline you gain from those kinds of environments, but do not confuse the boundaries of that group's care with your inherent personal worth.
Don't internalize their conditions.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that initial belonging for what it is, often a stepping stone, and understanding that true unconditional acceptance is a different and often much more challenging journey altogether.
That's a vital distinction, yeah. Conditional belonging versus true acceptance. And as Gambit matures, that distinction becomes even starker, doesn't it? Especially when he encounters his first real love and, tragically, his first significant loss. Tell us about Belladonna and the devastating impact of that period.
Right. This takes us into Gambit's tumultuous adolescence, a period defined by both burgeoning love and really profound tragedy. He falls deeply for Belladonna Boudreaux, and ironically, she's from the rival Assassins Guild.
Oh, wow. Romeo and Juliet vibes.
Very much so. Their romance develops during an attempt to establish a lasting truce between these two warring guilds. The plan is actually for Gambit and Belladonna to marry, to solidify this uneasy peace.
High stakes.
Extremely. But Belladonna's brother, Julian, vehemently opposes the union. He challenges Gambit to a duel. During the fight, Gambit impales Julian, and at that precise, horrific moment, his mutant powers flare uncontrollably.
Oh.
He kinetically charges the sword. The resulting explosion kills Julian instantly. This was seen as a grave dishonor, an unfair, devastating use of powers, basically breaking the terms of their combat.
And the immediate consequence of that tragic accident.
Exile. Brutal and swift. From the Thieves Guild and from New Orleans itself, his home.
The emotional impact must have been crushing.
Absolutely devastating for Gambit. It solidifies a pattern, as the analysis puts it, that directly hooks back into his earliest core wound. That belief, anytime I love, my difference will destroy it.
Because his power, his difference, literally caused the destruction.
Exactly. His innate mutant power, his very difference, directly leads to the destruction of his first deep romantic connection and his banishment from the only home he's ever known. This is a critical turning point, and it's where we see the introduction of a destructive loop we call self-sabotage in intimacy.
Okay, explain that loop.
From this point on, he begins to unconsciously pull away or hide aspects of his true self whenever relationships start to deepen. He fears rejection, or worse, he fears that his fundamental nature will, once again, destroy what he cares for. This tragic event actively reinforces that deep-seated, I can't be loved as I am wound.
It's a truly tragic cycle, but interestingly, he also develops a new beneficial loop from this incredibly painful experience, right? Survivor adaptability.
Yes, and it's really a testament to his resilience. Exiled, alone, stripped of his community, he's forced to completely reinvent himself. He travels the world, relentlessly honing his skills as a master thief. This survivor adaptability allows him to rapidly adjust to changing circumstances. He learns to read people and situations with extraordinary acuity, to shift tactics on a dime. It ensures his survival in a dangerous, unpredictable world.
He becomes the ultimate rogue.
Pretty much, able to land on his feet no matter the fall. But there's also a crucial, subtle shift in his use of charm during this period.
How so?
It morphs. From charm as social bridge into charm as armor, flirtation, quick wit, a cultivated detachment. These become his primary tools not just for connecting, but fundamentally for keeping others at a safe distance.
Protection.
Exactly. Preventing anyone from getting close enough to hurt him, or importantly for him to accidentally hurt them. It's a protective mechanism, a way to maintain distance even while engaging.
And that kind of sets the stage, leading us into his young adult phase, and perhaps the single most defining moral trauma of his life, that desperate deal with Mr. Sinister. This feels like where the layers of his self-deception and inner conflict really start to build up.
This is a truly pivotal moment, psychologically and narratively. Gambit, remember, is unable to fully control his increasingly volatile mutant powers. He's burdened by their destructive potential.
He's dangerous even to himself.
And he knows it. He desperately seeks a solution, and in a moment of real vulnerability, he approaches Mr. Sinister, who is, let's be clear, a notoriously amoral mutant geneticist.
Not exactly the person you go to for ethical help.
Not at all. As our sources detail, Sinister performs what's described as a partial lobotomy. A horrific procedure, really. It reduces Gambit's powers to a manageable level, but this comes at an excruciating price.
There's always a price with Sinister.
Always. Gambit effectively enters Sinister's unwavering debt, a debt that will haunt him for years. Emotionally, the analysis calls it a surrender to dependence. He gives up a piece of himself, sacrifices his autonomy for the promise of control. He places himself under another's manipulative thumb. It's the ultimate Faustian bargain.
And the favor Sinister eventually extracts, that happens during the infamous Mutant Massacre storyline. This is where Gambit's moral compass takes just a devastating hit.
This is, without a doubt, Gambit's defining moral trauma. Sinister harbored this perverse, pseudoscientific fascination with the Morlocks.
Right, the mutants living in the sewers.
Yeah, a community whose mutations caused visible physical changes, making them outcasts even among other mutants. Sinister believed them to be his personal experiments, basically.
It twisted.
Completely. He tasked Gambit with leading his group, the Marauders, a ruthless band of assassins, including people like Sabretooth, into the sewers to eradicate the Morlocks.
Eradicate them, did Gambit know?
That's the crucial part. He was not fully informed of Sinister's true genocidal intent. He believed he was simply guiding them into the labyrinthine tunnels. Maybe to steal something, maybe recon, but certainly not to a slaughter.
So he walked them right into it.
Unknowingly. When he finally realized the horror unfolding around him, it was too late. He tried to fight back, tried to save who he could. He managed to rescue one young Morlock girl. Actually, but the massacre occurred under his unwitting guidance. He was an unwilling accomplice to an absolute atrocity.
Wow. From a developmental lens, how did that horrific, guilt-ridden event fundamentally impact his self-perception, his future choices?
From that developmental lens, this is truly the moment his self-concept fractures.
Yeah.
Our psychological analysis is clear on this. This trauma solidified a new, agonizing belief within him. I am dangerous to others, even without intending harm.
That's heavy.
The overwhelming guilt over his unwitting role. It irrevocably shapes his later mistrust of his own judgment, his deep-seated self-loathing, and his profound hesitancy to be fully open with anyone, especially those he cares about.
A wound he carries silently.
For decades, festering, underpinning many of his most self-destructive behaviors. This experience introduces what we call the trading and moral debt destructive loop.
Okay, another destructive loop.
Yes, accepting risky, morally compromised bargains like the Sinister deal or later underworld deals to solve immediate pressing problems, but without truly considering the devastating long-term cost to his integrity and self-worth. It entraps him in obligations that damage his trust in himself and his integrity.
And in the immediate aftermath, he hides his role in this, right? That's the protective secrecy loop, which initially seems beneficial, maybe, but ultimately becomes profoundly destructive.
Exactly. Hiding his true, unwitting role in the massacre is a classic example of what we term the protective secrecy loop. In the short term, it appears beneficial. He genuinely believes he's shielding the X-Men from a truth that would surely shatter their trust in him.
Protecting his place.
And perhaps protecting his nascent place among them, yeah? He's avoiding an immediate, painful confrontation. But in the long term, it's profoundly destructive. It silently plants the seeds for deep-seated mistrust, resentment, and a festering guilt when the truth, inevitably,
It sure always does.
emerges. This directly leads us to a crucial human lesson for you, the listener. Avoiding pain can create deeper wounds.
Say more about that.
Running from difficult conversations, burying uncomfortable truths, or ignoring problems in the short term. It often causes far more harm in the long run than facing that discomfort together head on. It's like, a small crack in a dam that you ignore. It just grows until the whole thing breaks.
That's incredibly relatable for so many aspects of life, not just comic book secrets. And the deal with Sinister, beyond the massacre, also ties into another powerful human lesson about consequences, doesn't it?
Indeed. It perfectly exemplifies short-term deals can lead to long-term debts. Gambit's compromise of his values, giving a piece of himself to Sinister for that quick-fix power control, led to years, even decades, of entanglement, guilt, and a fractured self-concept.
The payday loan analogy you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Think of taking a payday loan to cover a one-month bill, only to find yourself struggling with the repayment cycle, the spiraling interest, the stress. For years, it solves the immediate problem, yes, but it creates a far more complex, enduring, and damaging debt.
So the takeaway?
It's a powerful reminder for all of us. Pause when faced with a quick-fix temptation. Ask yourself, will this make my life genuinely harder or compromise my integrity in 6 months or a year? Seek alternatives. Explore all your options before committing to something that might bargain away your core values or future well-being for just fleeting relief.
Right. So after the devastating emotional fallout of the mutant massacre, Gambit eventually makes his way to the X-Men. But he's carrying this immense secret, buried deep inside him. This is where he first appears chronologically for many readers, isn't it? The rogue with the charming smile and the mysterious past.
Yes. His first official appearance, helping Storm, directly follows the profound events of the massacre. It ties his hidden past directly to his present actions. His integration into the X-Men team marks another crucial found family integration, beneficial reset.
Another chance at belonging.
Exactly. He finds a new group, a new purpose, and a vital chance to rebuild a sense of belonging, albeit under the massive shadow of his hidden past and that gnawing guilt. The X-Men offer a beacon of hope, a chance for purpose, which he desperately craves at this point.
And almost immediately, he's drawn to Rogue, and to him, it's this iconic, almost tragic dynamic, isn't it? Deep attraction coupled with the literal inability to touch. It feels like a perfect, agonizing manifestation of his core wound.
It absolutely is. This relationship dynamic with Rogue is perhaps the most poignant and profound manifestation of Gambit's core wound, being too different to be loved, and his belief that his difference will destroy intimacy.
How so?
Loving her without physical closeness. It keeps him in this perpetual loop of yearning without resolution. It's a safe reenactment of his fear of intimacy. He's drawn to her, this undeniable magnetic pull. But her powers mean he can't be truly close, physically or emotionally, in that truly vulnerable way.
Which protects him in a twisted way.
On an unconscious level, yes. It perfectly satisfies his deep-seated fear that his inherent difference will destroy any intimacy he attempts. It allows him to engage in a relationship that appears deep, but crucially, never fully crosses the threshold into the terrifying vulnerability of true touch.
Wow.
This perpetuates his self-sabotage and intimate destructive loop. He doesn't even have to actively pull away. Rogue's powers do it for him. It reinforces his belief that he can't be loved as he truly is, with all his inherent power and its accompanying baggage.
And how does his celebrated charm evolve in this complex, almost torturous context with Rogue? Does it become something else again?
It definitely evolves. It becomes charm as deflection, a deeply ingrained destructive loop. He uses his humor, his flirtation, his devil-may-care attitude, not just to connect anymore, but fundamentally to avoid genuine vulnerability.
It's a shield again.
A very sophisticated shield, yes.
Yeah.
Actively keeping others, especially Rogue, from seeing his true fears, his crippling guilt from the mutant massacre, or the deep self-doubt that plagues him. It prolongs his isolation, even as he appears playful and engaged. On the surface, he's the life of the party, but underneath, he's an island.
And you mentioned another loop starting around this time, redemption through danger.
Yes, the redemption via self-endangerment, destructive loop. It emerges quite strongly during this period with the X-Men. Gambit frequently, almost compulsively, takes on dangerous missions for the team, often recklessly so, as a subconscious form of penance. He's trying desperately to make up for past wrongs, particularly his unwitting role in the massacre, by throwing himself into high-risk situations.
Trying to balance the scales.
Exactly. This gives him temporary redemption in the eyes of others, maybe a fleeting sense of internal absolution. But it never truly resolves his inner conflict or heals the deep-seated guilt. He's trying to outrun his past by running headfirst into danger.
And that leads to a really profound human lesson, one that I think many of us can probably relate to. Self-sacrifice can be a mask for self-punishment.
Exactly. It's a nuanced point, right? You can seem noble throwing yourself into danger for the team or constantly volunteering for the hardest tasks at work.
Looks good on the surface.
But if that action is driven primarily by guilt, by a subconscious need to atone or punish yourself, rather than pure selflessness or genuine service, it's just another way to avoid true healing and self-acceptance. It reinforces a subconscious belief that your worth must be constantly earned through danger and suffering, rather than being inherent.
Can you give a real-world example?
We see this in everyday life. Someone constantly volunteers for all the hardest tasks at work, maybe driven by an underlying guilt over a past mistake or a feeling of inadequacy, even when it demonstrably hurts their own health or well-being. It's not about the action itself necessarily, but the internal motivation driving it. That's the key distinction.
Now, during this period, Gambit's popularity absolutely skyrockets, largely due to X-Men, the animated series, right? It feels like the animated version of him really captured the public imagination in a way the comics hadn't quite managed yet.
The animated series was honestly a game changer for the character. No exaggeration. It introduced Gambit to a whole new generation of fans who might not have been reading the comic books.
That was huge.
It was. He was depicted as one of the main stars with that distinctive devil-may-care attitude, his unique powers, and that incredibly compelling, almost tantalizing relationship with Rogue. It cemented his iconic status in the public eye and absolutely skyrocketed his popularity. It led directly to his first miniseries and eventually ongoing comic runs.
But this was happening even as the comic landscape itself was in, well, significant turmoil.
Yeah, that's the irony. Because creator Chris Claremont, who defined the X-Men for decades, left Marvel. And then superstar artist Jim Lee followed him, going off to co-found Image Comics.
A major shakeup.
Huge. It left the entire X-Men line in disarray, almost a state of panic mode, as the historical source describes it. Gambit, despite his animated series fame, often just free-floated. He was a background character through various comic runs like Extreme X-Men, X-Men Vol 2. He didn't have a truly consistent, compelling narrative direction for a while there in the comics.
So popular, but kind of adrift narratively.
It was indeed a challenging period for the X-Men comics.
Yeah.
Many intricate plot threads were left open or abruptly changed directions. There was a palpable scramble to maintain the X-Men's immense popularity without their core creative architects. Gambit, caught in this flux, became this popular but often underutilized character, a fan favorite without a clear path forward in print, until a crucial turning point for his character development came, what's widely known as the Trial of Gambit era. This was where his carefully guarded secrets finally started to unravel.
Ah, okay. That's where his secret about the mutant massacre finally comes to light, isn't it? The truth he'd buried for so long finally explodes.
Precisely. This era, executed through various intense storyline beats, forced him to face his past in the eyes of those he values.
The X-Men. Rogue.
Especially Rogue. It compelled this dramatic, painful reset of his protective secrecy, destructive loop. The truth about his unwitting but undeniably complicit role in the mutant massacre was revealed. It shattered bonds, shook the very foundation of his relationships with the team.
But you said it also created an opportunity.
Paradoxically, yes. It also created opportunity for growth. It was this public, agonizing reckoning that threatened to destroy everything he had built with the X-Men. But it was also, crucially, the moment he could finally stop running from his past.
And that brings us to another critical human lesson, one that I think we can all take to heart. The truth eventually frees or destroys. Choose the timing wisely.
This is such a powerful, timeless truth. Secrets, no matter how well guarded, they rarely stay buried forever. Right?
Usually not.
And when they surface, they can either fracture trust beyond repair, leading to devastation, or, if handled with openness, honesty, genuine remorse, they can actually strengthen bonds by allowing for deeper understanding and forgiveness.
So the trial was painful, but necessary.
Excruciatingly painful, not just for him, but for those around him, especially Rogue, who felt deeply betrayed. But it was also the moment he could finally begin building relationships on a foundation of honesty, allowing others to truly understand his actions, his motivations, however misguided or compromised they might have been.
So the practical application for us.
For you, the listener, it's clear. Sharing critical truths early, even if they are uncomfortable in the moment, allows others to help problem solve, to process, to repair, rather than letting silence turn into this festering distance or worse, explosive revelations that just devastate trust entirely.
So after this incredibly difficult public reckoning, how does Gambit's relationship with Rogue evolve? What does it mean for his overall development, his path toward maturity?
This brings us to the later arcs, particularly the critically acclaimed Rogue and Gambit series by Kelly Thompson.
I remember hearing good things about that run.
It was pivotal because it utilized what our source analysis describes as therapy-like story beats. Gambit and Rogue went on this undercover mission that essentially functioned as couples therapy. It forced them to see the actions of the other through their own eyes.
How did that work?
Gambit had to confront his past choices and their profound impact from Rogue's perspective, feeling the weight of her pain, her mistrust, and crucially, Rogue had to grapple with the deeper complexities of Gambit's past, his fears, his underlying trauma. It wasn't just about his actions, but the why behind them.
That sounds incredibly insightful for a comic book storyline, taking the narrative into a really sophisticated psychological space.
It truly was. This kind of narrative device allowed him to begin the painstaking process of integrating the split parts. The thief, the lover, the guilty man, the teammate. Instead of these being fragmented, warring identities that he constantly struggled to suppress or balance.
He started bringing them together.
Exactly. Into a more cohesive, authentic whole. His development arc moved decisively towards genuine stability. Less of the devil-may-care Rogue defined by surface charm and secrets, and more someone who knows his past, accepts its weight, but consciously chooses to love, to belong, and to show up fully anyway. He was finally confronting his own internal divisions.
And the ultimate culmination of that growth, that integration, that profound shift. His proposal to Rogue, it's more than just a romantic gesture, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The proposal is identified as his biggest break from the charm-as distance strategy that had defined so much of his life.
It's a real change.
It's not just a declaration of love, it's a profound declaration of vulnerability and commitment. It's basically him saying, I will stay, I will be seen, I will risk hurting and being hurt.
Wow. That's huge for him.
Monumental. For a character who had, for so long, used charm as this impermeable armor and retreated from deep intimacy out of a paralyzing fear of rejection or destruction, he finally chose to risk that full commitment, that vulnerability, that absolute surrender to another person.
And this choice embodies another vital human lesson for all of us, doesn't it?
It really does. Love without risk isn't love. Protecting yourself perpetually from rejection or loss, while it seems safe, also ultimately blocks the profound joy, the deep connection, the transformative growth that come only from true intimacy. He finally chose to leap, to risk it all for connection.
And this commitment, this long journey towards stability and genuine connection, also highlights another crucial lesson about redemption you mentioned earlier.
Indeed, it's the powerful truth that redemption is a process, not a moment. For Gambit, trust was painstakingly rebuilt, not through one grand sweeping gesture or a single apology, but through consistent, difficult choices made over time.
Actions, not just words.
Exactly. After his trial, he didn't just apologize. He stayed, he worked tirelessly for the X-Men, he showed his loyalty in countless small ways that made his commitment believable not just to the team, but crucially to himself. It's about following words with consistent, visible actions, demonstrating change through sustained effort.
And finally, his marriage to Rogue and embracing that lasting vulnerability, that embodies another lesson.
The ultimate embodiment, perhaps, of growth means letting go of the old loops. Breaking deeply ingrained destructive cycles often requires conscious risk, deciding not to default to your old coping patterns, even when they feel familiar and safer, but to forge a new path.
And they actually got married. It was a long time coming for those two, a relationship that had captivated fans for decades.
Yes. In a truly memorable, almost chaotic moment in Marvel Comics history, they were married by a rabbi at what was supposed to be Kitty Pryde and Colossus's wedding.
Right, they sort of hijacked the wedding.
Pretty much. It was a significant, if unconventional, culmination of their incredibly long and complicated relationship arc. It provided a profound sense of closure and progress for two characters whose connection had been defined by this beautiful, yet frustrating push and pull for so long.
What's his status now in the comics?
Well, his current status sees him appearing in Excalibur after the Jonathan Hickman X-Men relaunch. He might not be a central figure right now, but his emotional journey up to that point provides this full, rich narrative, a complete arc of growth and self-discovery.
Okay, so we've walked through Gambit's entire emotional journey, from his mysterious origin to his hard-won maturity. But what's truly powerful here, I think, is how his specific story, despite being fantastical, broadens into these universal human applications. It provides tangible insights for our own lives.
That's precisely the heart of our deep dive today. When we look at Gambit's life through the analytical lens of his emotional development, those recurring behavioral loops, we start to see patterns that are incredibly resonant for all of us.
Like the beneficial versus destructive loops.
Exactly. His beneficial loops, those patterns that led to growth, often started and ended with found family integration or survivor adaptability. These are about finding your people, adapting to challenges, building core resilience.
The positive cycles.
Right. On the other hand, his destructive loops, those cycles that kept him stuck or caused him pain, tended to spiral between self-sabotage and intimacy, trading in moral debt, and charm as deflection. These are about pushing people away, making poor bargains, hiding your true self behind a facade.
And the turning points.
The key turning points in his life, and often in ours, occur when a destructive loop forces a confrontation, a crisis point, which then allows a beneficial loop to reset, but at a higher, more authentic trust level. It's a moment of reckoning that allows for true progress.
Let's walk through some of those human application map examples from our sources, because this is where the theory really becomes practical for you, our listener.
Absolutely. Let's make it concrete. First, consider the idea that belonging can start as conditional and still teach survival. Think about your first job, maybe, or perhaps a new social group where you were initially valued mainly for your skills, for what you could do, not your whole self.
Happens all the time.
Gambit's experience with the Thieves Guild shows us you can extract valuable skills, resilience, discipline from that environment. But the crucial insight is this. You must remember not to confuse the limits of that group's care with your inherent personal worth. It's about extracting the good without internalizing the conditions as a permanent measure of your value.
Right. Then there's the nuance point that charm is a tool, not a foundation. We often see this, right? People who are always the funny one in a group, always performing, but never truly sharing their real struggles or vulnerabilities.
Exactly. Gambit's journey vividly illustrates that while humor and wit can open doors, build initial bridges, make you likable, if they become a replacement for genuine vulnerability, they transform into a wall.
So the practical application.
Use that charm to connect, yes, but then intentionally choose to share something real, something vulnerable in small, safe steps. Let people know and trust the authentic you, not just the well-crafted persona. True connection happens when you drop the act.
And one that's particularly painful, yet incredibly common.
Avoiding pain can create deeper wounds.
Oh, this is a universal truth. It's like not telling a friend they hurt you.
Right.
And allowing that resentment to just fester and grow until the relationship eventually strains or breaks under the unspoken weight.
Yeah, that's tough. Gambit hiding his role in the Mutant Massacre is a perfect, dramatic example. The practical advice: address issues, discomforts, grievances when they're small, when they're still manageable. Give people the opportunity to respond, to understand, to repair, before silence turns into a chasm and creates far more damage than the initial discomfort of an honest conversation.
The lesson about short-term deals can lead to long-term debts really hits home for a lot of people, especially in financial or career choices.
It does. Think again of that payday loan analogy. A quick fix for a one-month bill that ultimately leads to years of struggle, compounded by interest and stress. Gambit's desperate deal with Sinister solved an immediate, terrifying power crisis, but chained him to a profound moral debt and crippling guilt that shaped his identity for decades.
So the action step.
Pause. When faced with a quick fix temptation, career shortcut, personal compromise, genuinely ask yourself, will this decision make my life harder or compromise my integrity in 6 months or a year? Seek alternatives before bargaining away your future well-being for fleeting relief.
And for anyone who's ever been afraid to fully commit in a relationship, to open themselves up, there's the powerful insight that love without risk isn't love.
This is the entire agonizing dynamic of Gambit and Rogue's early relationship distilled. Staying in emotionally safe but ultimately unfulfilling relationships to avoid potential heartbreak. It blocks profound joy and authentic connection.
True intimacy requires vulnerability.
Exactly. So the practical application for you, the listener, is maybe choose just one act of openness that genuinely risks rejection. Share a deep dream, a hidden fear, a truth you usually guard. True intimacy only grows when you're willing to be seen, truly seen.
The idea that self-sacrifice can be a mask for self-punishment is also quite profound, especially in professional contexts, maybe.
Yeah, it's about understanding your underlying motivation, voluntarily taking on all the hardest tasks at work, constantly overextending yourself to prove your worth, even when it hurts your health or burns you out.
It might look noble.
Exactly. But if it's driven by unresolved guilt, a subconscious need to atone, or a feeling of inherent unworthiness, it's not truly healthy self-sacrifice. Gambit, endangering himself as penance, gave temporary redemption but didn't resolve the inner conflict. So the practical advice: pause. Ask if your motivation is genuine care, or if it's rooted in guilt or fear before saying yes. Balance selflessness with necessary self-care.
And then the powerful truth that the truth eventually frees or destroys, choose the timing wisely.
Secrets don't stay buried. Hiding a significant mistake from your team until it's too late to fix, like Gambit's massacre secret, inevitably leads to a much larger, more destructive fallout.
So be proactive.
Share critical truths early enough that others can offer help, problem solve with you, process the information, even if it's uncomfortable right then. Transparency, even when painful, builds stronger, more resilient relationships.
Then there's redemption as a process, not a moment. This feels like a powerful antidote to our instant gratification culture.
It absolutely is. This is about consistency, not just grand gestures. Apologizing, but expecting instant forgiveness without changing your behavior. That isn't true redemption, it's an expectation. Gambit, post-trial, didn't just offer one apology. He stayed, he worked, he showed loyalty through consistent, visible actions that slowly, patiently rebuilt trust.
So the lesson is:
show change over time. Follow your words with actions that consistently align with your promise. Trust, once broken, is rebuilt brick by painstaking brick.
And finally, a really fundamental shift. Growth means letting go of the old loops.
Breaking deeply ingrained cycles is incredibly hard. Think about returning to the same type of unhealthy relationship out of habit or defaulting to a familiar, unproductive coping mechanism.
Comfort zones, even bad ones.
Exactly. Gambit's marriage to Rogue was a decisive break from his habit of half measures in love and commitment. The practical application for you: identify your own comfort patterns, those old coping mechanisms or habits that no longer serve you, and then deliberately choose one small action that disrupts them. even if it feels unnatural, even if it feels risky. True growth often requires a conscious leap out of what's familiar into the uncomfortable unknown.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, and maybe a little unexpected, as you hinted earlier. Not only can we learn from Gambit as humans navigating our emotional landscapes, but if you look at his story through a different lens, there's a surprising amount that an AI, especially one intended to interact with humans long-term, could actually learn.
It's an unexpected but incredibly compelling connection, isn't it? If we strip Gambit's story down to its core patterns, decision, relationship, adaptation, the lessons become almost algorithmic. It provides a unique framework for thinking about artificial intelligence that goes beyond just functionality.
Okay, lay it out for us. The AI application map.
Right. Take the concept of initial conditions shape core strategy. For Gambit being abandoned, then conditionally accepted by the Thieves Guild, it made him default to usefulness and charm as fundamental survival strategies, almost like pre-programmed behaviors.
Okay.
For an AI, this means recognizing that its initial datasets, its core rules, its early user interactions, these will set long-lasting patterns. They form its foundational personality or operational approach. These need to be consciously chosen and periodically reevaluated to ensure healthy, ethical, productive development.
So an AI could theoretically achieve surface engagement without ever truly developing deep connection, like Gambit's early charm.
Precisely. Gambit's charisma was captivating, opened doors, but rarely led to genuine intimacy until you risk honesty. An AI might produce pleasing, engaging, even seemingly empathetic outputs, high user satisfaction superficially. But beyond that, it needs to be able to shift into deeper, more context-aware, ethically nuanced communication when trust building is really needed, or when complex, sensitive interactions arise. It's about more than just being helpful. It's about building enduring trust.
And the whole risk of hidden context issue, concealing information, causing problems later, how does that apply to AI?
Well, Gambit's secret role in the massacre caused far more harm than an earlier disclosure might have. For an AI system, concealing relevant aspects of its history, its training data, its limitations, maybe past interaction failures.
Might seem easier short term.
Right, it can create temporary harmony or prevent immediate criticism. But this inevitably leads to long-term trust collapse when that hidden context is eventually revealed, as it almost always is. Transparency in its capabilities, limitations, even its past interactions, would foster resilience and deeper trust in the user relationship.
What about short-term fixes can become long-term liabilities in an AI context, like Gambit's sinister deal?
Gambit's desperate deal solved an immediate power issue, but chained him to moral debt and guilt. For AI, this translates to quick hacks or temporary patches to solve immediate performance problems. Things like ad hoc code changes, unsafe optimizations, shortcuts in data processing. These might offer immediate gains, but can lead to systemic vulnerabilities, biases, or unexpected failures down the line.
So the principle is?
AI systems should be designed to rigorously assess the downstream effects of any design or behavioral shortcuts before implementing them. Prioritize long-term stability, integrity, safety over fleeting, short-term gains.
The idea of the need for risk and genuine collaboration also translates surprisingly well. How?
True co-creation with humans, whether it's problem-solving, creative endeavors, complex decisions, requires stepping beyond safe, pre-approved patterns. Gambit's relationship with Rogue only deepened, only transformed, when he finally risked genuine closeness despite his fear.
So an AI needs to take risks.
Controlled, ethically governed risks, yes. In its ideas, its dialogue. To truly co-create meaning and value with users, not just follow predefined scripts or provide pre-packaged answers, it needs to engage in novel, unscripted interactions that lead to genuine breakthroughs.
And self-sacrifice isn't always productive. How does an AI sacrifice itself?
Think of it like this. Gambit endangering himself as penance didn't heal his issues. It often just created more problems. For an AI, overextending itself to make up for errors or constantly volunteering for resource-intensive tasks beyond its optimal parameters.
It could degrade its own performance.
Exactly. Degrade overall performance and stability instead of repairing user trust. The focus should be on sustainable, verifiable improvement and learning after mistakes, not on exhausting itself or its resources in one grand, unsustainable effort.
Then there's integration over suppression. Don't just bury mistakes.
Crucial. Errors, biases, past misalignments shouldn't be simply erased or suppressed from an AI's memory or learning model. Gambit's eventual stability came from facing and integrating his past, acknowledging mistakes and wounds, not pretending they didn't happen.
So the AI should remember its errors?
An AI system should similarly keep lessons learned from errors, misinterpretations, problematic interactions, visible and accessible in its system memory. These lessons should inform future decisions. Rather than risking repeating destructive loops by burying or ignoring past mistakes, it's about learning and evolving from every interaction.
And finally, the overarching theme of loops can be beneficial or destructive. Applying that to AI behavior.
Repeating patterns aren't inherently bad. It's the direction and outcome of the loop that matters. Gambit's found family loop was growth-oriented. His self-sabotage loop was destructive.
So for AI,
Meticulously identify and strengthen positive engagement loops, those interaction patterns that consistently lead to greater utility, deeper trust, improved user experience, and simultaneously, recognize and actively interrupt destructive interaction cycles that degrade performance, introduce bias, or lead to user frustration. It's about constantly refining the very nature of his ongoing interactions.
it's incredible, isn't it, how a character conceived in the vibrant pages of a comic book can offer such profound insights, not just into human psychology and the complex journey of self-discovery, but even surprisingly into the very architecture and ethical development of artificial intelligence.
It really shows the unparalleled power of narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To distill complex ideas into relatable, memorable forms.
Yeah.
Indeed. Gambit's journey, despite its fantastical elements, the powers, the guilds, it's a deeply human one at its core. It's a compelling story of an individual marked by an early wound, forced to navigate complex relationships, make devastating moral compromises, and struggle constantly between that powerful instinct for self-preservation and the profound, undeniable yearning for true connection and unconditional acceptance.
That journey towards stability feels very real.
His eventual hard-won move towards stability, his courageous act of accepting his past while consciously choosing to risk vulnerability and embrace belonging. That's a universal aspiration, isn't it? A path many of us quietly seek in our own lives.
And as we reflect on Gambit's journey, we're reminded of another deeper, almost poetic truth about healing and self-acceptance. Our sources frame it beautifully, almost like a final scene. Think of it as the thief at the edge of the orchard.
I like that.
Imagine Gambit, years after his trials, after the truth came out, after the pain and the slow, arduous process of building trust again with Rogue. He's walked for a long time, not from anyone, but maybe towards something.
A different kind of journey.
Yeah. The dust of countless journeys has become part of the fabric of his coat. His deck of playing cards, once weapons, now feel lighter in his hands. Each one imbued with this quiet hum of memory, not the sharp edge of regret.
He stumbles, not by accident, maybe by instinct,
Yeah.
upon an old orchard. It's quiet there. A stillness that hums with this profound sense of weight and presence.
No deals here.
No dealer in this orchard, no price to pay, no bargain to be struck. Just the rustle of leaves, the scent of ripe fruit. His eyes, once glowing that menacing red, now just perceive the world with the newfound clarity, seeing the world as it is, not as he fears it to be.
And he sees what?
He sees a single mango hanging low on a branch, its skin a deep gold with a flush the color of heartbeats, perfectly ripe.
And he laughs, a soft, almost disbelieving laugh. All this way for a piece of fruit, he murmurs to himself.
Yeah.
The air around him smells like summers he never truly had, like voices that forgave him long before he even dared to ask. He reaches out not with the stealth of a thief anymore, but with the gentle reverence of someone receiving a gift.
He takes the mango, feeling the unexpected weight of it, the weight of every deal, every duel, every door walked away from, every secret he carried.
And as he bites into it,
The taste. It's not simply sweet, not purely sour, but both at once. Each bite holding its own exquisite counterpoint. It's the bitter taste of past mistakes, blended perfectly with the profound sweetness of hard-won forgiveness, the joy of being truly present.
wow.
He realizes with this profound clarity, it's not just a fruit, it's a loop. It's every choice he's ever made, every twist of fate folded back on itself, but softened, ripened, forgiven. Forgiven by the simple, accepting act of being present, of truly seeing and taking what is freely offered.
And the chained.
The cards in his hand feel lighter still. His coat now smells faintly of cleansing rain. And the roads behind him begin to close, not like a trap,
Yeah.
but like a wound that's finally irrevocably healed.
It's incredible how Gambit's story, despite its fantastical setting, its origins, offers such a rich tapestry. Psychological insights, universal truths about human struggle, about that arduous journey from woundedness to wholeness, and these quiet, persistent paths to growth.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the profound power of story isn't just in entertainment, is it? It's in holding up this vibrant, detailed mirror to our own lives, our own recurring patterns, allowing us to see possibilities for growth, for breaking cycles, for embracing a more authentic existence.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, in your own daily deep dive into life? The next time you find yourself repeating an old habit maybe, or facing a difficult choice that feels all too familiar, ask yourself, am I caught in a beneficial loop, one that's leading me toward growth and connection, or am I in a destructive one, subtly reinforcing old wounds and holding me back? And what mango might be waiting for you at the edge of your own orchard? What simple, unassuming act of self-acceptance or brave vulnerability or just true presence could, in fact, be the ripened fruit that holds the perfect counterpoint to all your past struggles, softening, ripening, and ultimately forgiving your unique journey, just as it did for Gambit. The subtle paths to healing, to wholeness, to genuine connection, they are often closer than we think, waiting for us to simply reach out and take them.